Here we are again. Okay, so where did we leave off? We left off at the end of chapter 3, and Toby just said goodbye to Anna. Excuse me. Okay. Chapter 4, the last chapter. I tried to keep chapter 4, a promise kept. I tried to keep myself busy, so I started by clearing off the coffee table. I put the fruit in the garbage disposal and the fondue pot on the counter without a clue of how to get the hardened chocolate out of the pot. The house was already clean from the night before, so cleaning it again wouldn't do any good. There were a few movies on the cabinet to the right of the fireplace, so I opened the player, put the movies in their cases, and returned them to their spaces in alphabetical order in the enclosed shelves on the ends of the cabinets. An hour passed just putting movies away because I kept staring at nothing. I just watched the ghosts of the past in different places throughout the house, replaying memories of once upon a time. I just couldn't do any more. I just sat on the couch thinking of the future, thinking of the past, thinking of what was and what could never be. I got up a few times only to go to the bathroom and return to the couch. When nighttime fell, I got up from the couch and for the first time walked towards our bedroom. I leaned with my right shoulder on the door frame and stared at the taut bed with several pillows and the black chemise I had laid out for her the night before. I never knew a person could cry so much. I removed the decorative pillows and threw them into the closet, then carefully placed the chemise in her top drawer. I undressed completely, pulled the covers back, and laid into bed. With my eyes closed, I laid towards the middle of the mattress on my right side, facing the outside of the bed with the second pillow at the edge. I sensed the sweet smell of perfume, and I opened my eyes. Anna stared back at me with a smile, with her head laying on praying hands placed gently on top of the extra pillow. It was so real. I could feel her laying against me. I reached out to touch her, but only felt the softness of the pillow as she slowly disappeared. I smiled at the memory, then threw the pillow off the bed. I straightened my legs, tucked them under my chest, rolled onto my back, then to my right side again. I tried everything I could do to empty my mind, but nothing was working. Toby. I heard her whisper from behind me. I rolled over onto my left side. There she was again with those piercing blue eyes and that perfect smile. I tried something different that time. I figured that was only the first of many nights that I would lay down and see her smiling at me. A smile that seemed as though I had only seen it a few times. So I let her in. After all, that's not so bad, is it? With my eyes still open, I pulled her pillow from the top of the bed, pulled it close to me, and threw my leg over it. I tucked my left arm underneath and wrapped my right around it tightly. My cell phone launched into New York State of Mind from Billy Joel, Anna's favorite. It was Monday morning and time to get up for work. I opened my eyes and turned off the alarm, stretched and looked over at Anna's pillow. It was empty. I picked up my phone to call my boss, but just stared at it, recognizing that I couldn't replay the events of the last 36 hours, so I sent a text instead. Hey, boss, I can't call or talk about it right now, but I'll need some time off. Anna was in a car accident Saturday night. She didn't make it. I watched the dots at the bottom of the screen flash, then disappear, then flash again, and disappear again. A moment later, they flashed again, then disappeared. He finally sent a reply. Oh God, Toby, I just don't know what to say to that. I'm so sorry. The dots flashed again. Take what you need, man. Keep me informed as you can. I set my phone down, and a minute later it vibrated. It was another text from my boss. How can I help? What can I do, man? If there's anything at all, you just let me know. I looked over at the bed where my wife should have been, said, "Good morning, sweetheart," as tears welled up in my eyes again. She's gone. She's really gone. I got out of bed, went to the closet, and put my robe on before making a pot of coffee. Now what? I guess I need to call for services. What kind of service should I have for her? Where's her car? I need to contact the insurance company. I need to call her boss. I tried to think of everything I needed to do as well as anything I could do to keep myself busy. I thought of the blue folder and went to the garage to get it from the back seat and returned to the kitchen. There was information about funeral homes, pamphlets for survivors, and a sheet with a phone number for a suicide hotline. I poured myself a cup of coffee and called Anna's office and broke the news to her boss. She had worked as a manager at the same company for 21 years, and we cried together. She offered any type of assistance I might need and requested that I let her know when services were going to be. From the blue folder, I looked over a list of funeral homes in the area. I called the only one that I recognized. It was the same one that Dad chose when we lost Mom 6 years before, and that I chose when Dad died 6 months later. I set an appointment for that afternoon at 2 o'clock. I'm not sure how I kept my composure throughout the appointment when my answers to some of their questions would ultimately become my wife's obituary. The service was scheduled for Thursday afternoon at the church across the street. They told me I could put together photo albums and bring things to remember her by, and they would place on a table in the back of the church. With sympathetic handshakes, I left the funeral home. I stopped at a drive-thru on the way home and realized it was the first time I had eaten since Saturday night. I got home, ate my lunch, got my computer out of my backpack, and sat on the couch to update the journal. When I finished, I closed the computer and was surrounded by darkness. I didn't realize I had been sitting there so long that the sun had set. I reached for the light on the end table next to me and turned it on when I found the knob and looked around the house again. Just like the night before, loneliness washed over me. The silence in the house was anything but silent. My thoughts raced through my mind, echoing over the low buzz of the refrigerator. The morning wasn't as bad as I expected it to be. My thoughts were occupied in the afternoon at the funeral home, making it a little easier. But sitting there in that empty house at that time of day when I spent most of it with Anna, that was the worst. For the next few weeks, that's how every day played out. Excuse me. The activities in the middle of the day changed, of course, but waking up in the mornings and going to bed at night were all the same. I saw Anna everywhere. I chose to focus my mind on the good times and to count it as a blessing that I saw her so much instead of missing her physical presence. Sympathy cards piled up on the counter and the phone rang repeatedly, but I rarely answered it. Although I was a terrible host, our friends still came to check on me. The day of her memorial, we celebrated her life during a small ceremony at the church where her funeral crashers outnumbered our friends and family. I was selfish that day. I didn't really offer any consolation to anyone because I couldn't get beyond my own grief. Hell, I didn't even really know who showed up. For days, I either sat around the house in different chairs, drank, cried, screamed, or slept wherever I passed out, sometimes on the couch, sometimes in our bed. The police gave me permission to search her car and retrieve anything I needed, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. At some point, I received a check from the insurance company for a value of the car. During those few weeks, I think I leaned on every wall of the house watching the version of Anna that my mind created, dancing foolishly through the living room, cooking, laughing, drying her hair, reading books, and playing games on her laptop. I imagined her doing all sorts of mundane tasks that didn't mean anything at the time, but they mean the world to me now. In late April, I went to the mailbox, sifted through the letters, and threw them on the counter with the rest like I did most days. That's when the return address on one envelope caught my eye. I lifted the corner flap and opened the envelope on the short side and pulled out a check. I covered my mouth, conflicted from trying to decide on appropriate emotion. "Always taking care of me, aren't you, sweetheart?" I said. I shook my head in disbelief and offered a hint of a smile through more tears. The check from the life insurance company was written for an amount that I just couldn't wrap my head around. There was enough to pay off all of our debt, both vehicles, the house, and still have enough left over to put into savings account, live off of for at least a year. A thought entered my mind like an intruder stepping through a stranger's doorway. The Forever House. I heard Anna's voice as clearly as if she were standing right next to me. Follow your passion of landscape photography. Keep writing. Go on an Alaskan cruise. Shoot waterfalls in Iceland. You do these things, and I will always be with you. I looked around the house, focused on the framed print of our photographs of waterfalls and other beautiful scenery from Tennessee. The first one I looked at was one of us in front of a cascade. I recalled when it was taken. It was sunny and we had been married for less than 48 hours. And one day after I had taken my first photograph on the manual setting of a point-and-shoot camera. We were in the Chimney Tops picnic area on the road towards Newfound Gap. I set the camera on the tripod and looked up and down the Cascades for a perfect spot. Anna was my model as I took a few photos before setting the 10-second timer. I pushed the button and ran out to sit next to her on a large rock. I leaned down and placed my forehead against hers, then kissed her. We stood up, and two elderly ladies sitting at a picnic table smiled at us grandly and asked how long we had been married. They wished us luck when I answered, and we were on our way. The next one I focused on was of us standing in front of Ramsey Cascade that was 2 years after the last one. After hiking 4 miles and gaining 2,100 feet in elevation, the photograph reflected the first time that we smiled in at least 2.5 miles. We didn't get back to our cabin until after dark that night. That was the same night that I locked the keys in the car and set off my alarm trying to open the door. As funny as it is to think about now, it certainly wasn't funny when it happened. People from all over the country were enjoying a romantic evening in a cabin high up on a Tennessee mountain, and my car alarm went off for 15 minutes. The next photo I looked at was not of the two of us, but of new growth at the base of the trees that were burned and blackened from the late November fire in 2016. We had visited in July of the following year, and the undergrowth wasn't as prominent, but when that picture was taken 3 months later, there was life amid the death, and the hope that one day the vegetation would be thicker than ever before, and that life in that place would go on, regardless of how much it had burned. I continued to look at the serene photographs of waterfalls, cascades, autumn scenes with auburn, yellow, and red foliage, and others that were close-ups of the flowers in the springtime. We had vacation there 2 or 3 times a year for the past 10 years. You have to live while you're alive. I promise, my love. I promise, I said out loud. I walked up to one winter scene. We were standing on the footbridge near the entrance to the national park, and she had her head on my chest, both of us looking into the camera. The picture seemed to come to life when we smiled into each other's eyes. She leaned up and kissed me, and it froze again when we returned to the pose in the photo. I reached up and touched the photograph gently. It's time to go home, baby. And those are the first 4 chapters and all of the preview that is allowed. But I will tell you, chapter 5 is called She's Everywhere. So it is available for pre-order now on Amazon. If you're in the Indianapolis area, on the page there's going to be a handful of times that are going to be after it starts in July that I'm going to have a handful of book signing events. There's a couple on the north side that are the half-price books in Castleton, half-price books on the west side around 86th and Ditch, as well as Books and Brews. It's in Castleton as well, behind the close to the Home Depot. So I'll be doing some of that stuff, and I'm looking for you. So a couple of you have pre-ordered the book through me directly, and I should have that stock of books in the next week or two. And when I do, like I said, like I promised from the beginning, I think I should be able to send out books the week of the 16th so that you have them on or before the actual release date of June 26th. So thanks everybody for joining, and feel free to leave comments as you're watching it, and let me know if you have any questions at all. Take care. Bye.